Hello, and welcome back to VR Club. In today's lesson, we'll be going over some basic interactions. I've created a new scene inside a simple interactions folder. I can do this by going into right-click, create, and then creating a scene. And it will give me the empty scene, which I've named simple interactions. So the first part of this lesson is just going over some basic coding concepts. So we can do this by just creating a new coding script, and I'll just call it simple coding. And then we will create just an empty object where we can attach it to. And I just want to show you guys a couple things. So I'm just going to attach this over here, and we're going to go into this code. So the first concept I want to go over is the if loop. Just like in real life, if something is true, then I want to do something. So for example, if true, I want to print hello, this is true. So since I put it inside the start function, I've put in the condition, which is true, and then I should see that there is a print one time once I press play. And since I've added the code already to this game object, I haven't, so we'll need to do that. We can add the code to the game object, and we see simple codings here. And we'll look at the console, we'll clear it, and let's see what happens. And then we have our hello, this is true. So the if statement will only execute if this statement inside is true. So for example, if 1 equals 1, that's a true statement. And what we should see is that it will print out. So I'll just clear this again. And this is true. Now, let's see if we have if 1 equals 2. Obviously, that is a not true statement, so it will not happen, and you won't see a hello, this is true. And already we see a unreachable code detected, so it's pretty clear that it won't happen. The next concept is a for loop. So this is just going to do something X number of times, what I define it as. So I'll start it off is I need to name it as a counter. So this is the starting point. It can be 0, it can be 1, it can be anything. The second part is the condition where it stops. So let's say I is less than 10, and then the last one is the increment. So I have a plus plus, and let's say debug.log my number is, and I can also add the I here. So what this will do is I will print the value of I. And what we will see is that it will go through it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up till 9, where it is less than 10. We can do this where it starts at 10, it can be greater than 0, and it will go down. What do you think will happen now? Let's take a look. Press play. And we see that we go from 10, 9, 8 down back to 1. The last concept I want to introduce is a while statement. So do something while something is true. Just like the if statement, we need a condition. I can manually put it in as while true debug .log hello Frank. And what this will do is it will continuously print out hello Frank. If you remember from a previous lesson, if I just put debug log and update, it will also continuously printing because it is happening every frame. But we can also create the same behavior inside this start. And actually, you see it gets stuck because I've got myself in a while loop, and it will continuously print because there's no way to actually exit out of it. So we need to have a condition that turns it off. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of my Unity because it's going to be an issue. And I've caused it actually to crash.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I had to exit out of Unity since it was stuck in that while loop. And the way I did that was Control-Alt-Delete to get rid of it. And I reopened it back up. So let's go back to our simple code. And instead of while true, we'll need a way to actually exit. So let's just try and represent the same behavior that we did for the for loop. If our I is less than 10, I++, and then we can print our I here. And let's just press play to see what happens. And we see, I press play, it goes from 0 all the way to 9, creating the same type of behavior as the for loop. So now we see that there are many different ways to do the type of behavior you actually want. Next, we're going to just have a simple interaction. So I want to have a character, and then when my character touches an object, I want that object and my character to change color. So let's create our character. I'll just make it a simple cube. I will make a ground to move on the bottom. And then I'll just make a simple capsule that I want the color to change. Alright, so we'll go into our code. I have pre-written the questions from the very top. So the first thing I asked is, how do I make a character move in Unity? I've created a character. Now the next step is to add a character controller. Alright, so my cube, I will need to add component. I can search up character controller. So that is there. The next thing it wants me to do is make a movement script. So I'll just call it, it wants me to call it player movement. So I'll copy it here. And I'll just create the player movement script. Do pay attention about the naming. If you name the name of the script different, then it may not work. So you see there's a player movement, capital P, capital M. I'll copy the code here into this. And then what else does it say? Add it to my character, adjust the speed, and test the movement with the WASD keys. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and do that. Add my player movement to the cube. And we see that it's added here. Let's press play. and we can use the WASD keys to move it. Now I want to have it change color. But let's test something real quick. Let's change this to a lowercase m. Sometimes you may have an accident, rename things. Do you think it will work? Let's give that a try. And when I press play, it looks like it still works, but maybe I'll change the name completely wrong. So now when I press play and try to get it to work, I'm having some trouble. So it's important to name your things correctly, where the player movement class is the same as the name of the script that you made here. Alright, so next we're going to go into our color change behavior, and I've asked it to change the color. And the question I asked it is, can you make it so that if my player touches another object, that other object changes color? So now it wants me to create a new script, something called color change. So let's go ahead and do that. Create a new script, paste it, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this code here. And paste it here. And I also want to add it to the object I want the color to change. I need to add the colliders, and also I need to enable the triggers. So this is the capsule I want color changed, and in the collider there's a is trigger. Make sure you do it for both. I have a collider is trigger. And let's see what else. Make sure to follow all the instructions. If you miss one or don't read carefully, sometimes it won't work. Oh, capsule, I have 2 of them. That was an accident. Let's add it here to the cube. If you have the code of the same thing twice, there's some trouble. So now we see that when they touch each other, there's some color change for the interaction. Now let's delete the code from here, and now we only have the color change on this. Let's see what happens. And now it only changes this one. So when you have these different types of code, feel free to try, explore, and change things. This is a simple overview of the color change and simple interactions. In our next lesson, we'll be going over user interface and buttons.